Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Welcome.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're broadcasting from the only place in Decatur where you can make anything from a birdhouse to a photon beam flux capacitor thingy thing. It's the Decatur Makers Hour.
All right, welcome to another Decatur Makers podcast. This is Maureen Haley, Kevin Arne, and Char Miller King.
What's up?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Just
Super.
relaxing in the evening.
Great. Hey, I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. I know we usually start with what our projects are. However, mine are the same. They haven't made much progress. But one of the things that, two things I've been doing, one is through Decatur Makers, we're facilitating a Girls Who Code Club, which is it's an international organization. I joined Decatur Makers. I went to a meetup originally because I was trying to learn to program or to code, and I'm about at the same spot. I'm still trying to learn to program and code. I was just wondering, my experience is that I love the hands-on, I love the creativity, I love the thinking about it, but when I have to plop my butt down and do something that involves coding, it's really hard to focus, and I get a little bit frustrated because I'm not good at it. I make very slow progress. I don't know if you guys use any coding or programming in your making activities. Do you find?
It's basically stuff I find on the web and copy and paste it somewhere else and hope that it works.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
I
always tell people you want to start by copying.
Yep, that's pretty much my limit on coding.
How about you, Kevin?
I do a little bit of coding. I do find that it can be easy to get distracted while coding. I think it's done at a computer, and unlike all the other kind of making things, you're not generally doing them in front of a computer, so there are not all those distractions that come with computers when you're operating a table saw, luckily. But yeah, I also kind of have trouble focusing on it, and honestly, I do like the physical aspects of the projects. So I like making the robot chassis and soldering the circuit together. I don't really care as much for writing the code on it. I always kind of stall and wait around, put it off, do another version of the actual board, and then eventually get to coding.
Yeah, when this works out, I'm going to have to sit down and do the coding, and then it's like, oh, maybe one more iteration before I have to do that. It's nice. One of the girls, I felt like one of the nice things that we have available at the Makerspace are activities other than coding. So we provide use of laptops, and there's a curriculum online by the Girls Who Code group. But we have been able to do laser cutting and 3D printing and glass etching. But I kind of felt like, we're not really doing enough coding for the coding club. And then one of the girls gave us the feedback about, like, what have you liked so far? And she goes, well, I really like the hands-on stuff. Oh, good, because that's what we're good at. That's what we have to offer.
Well, I do think that at least with coding, the coding mindset can help a lot in the areas that aren't necessarily obviously related to coding. So thinking in terms of what's a reusable chunk of this project that I can do over and over, that I can write once and not have to worry about figuring it out next time around. I can use it again and again. So like making jigs for woodworking is very similar to writing your own little library for coding. It's just for physical objects. So I like to think that way.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast on teaching Python. There's I wish I'd written down, maybe I can have it for our links, but in the description, they described all the reasons that it's good for kids to learn Python or coding. And I was like, oh, that's all the reasons to learn anything. And one of them was like problem solving, and also it was modularity, learning to break things down into small, doable parts. And they had a whole list of things that life skills. Now, I don't know if it requires those life skills to code, or whether coding teaches and reinforces those life skills, but it is the same thing. It's a way to sort of systematically go about problem solving.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to be exposed to different ways of thinking about the same content. So the fact that it covers similar problem solving stuff to other kinds of things like math or making a bookshelf isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different kind of vector for that idea to get into your head.
Yeah, I like that. Char, do you have a new microphone? You gonna do a little karaoke over there?
So my computer went off. I thought the power or something went off at my house, and then a little thermometer showed up on the screen, like it was too hot.
Oh no, that's not good.
So it won't even come back on. So I have a Rode mic and a little dongle that I used to connect it to my phone. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one is just for show, so that I can practice speaking in front of people, holding a microphone. So it's not even plugged in.
All right.
Well,
now you remember that
you
this
guys
is an
get to
audio
see-
podcast, right?
You guys get to see my lovely assortment, a better view of my belts and ties.
Very nice.
You have a lot more ties than I would have expected.
I know. I usually don't wear them that often, but every now and then I like to switch it up. You know.
They are kind of safety hazards with the table saw.
Exactly.
You lean pretty heavily towards the stripes in your tie selection, I see. Maybe that's...
Yeah. These are my sons, the one closest to the end, because I'm afraid that the twins might cut up his ties if they stay in his room. So take all potential arts and crafts projects out and put them in our room.
Potential. Speaking of potential arts and crafts projects, that was the other thing that I was going to talk about, because what I'm referring to as maker hoarding, which sounds like it's a judgment, but it's not. This would happen. I got a refrigerated package from Amazon, so something had to be cold. So it came with some ice pack things. It said they were reusable, and I was like, all right. They went in the freezer, and then it had like this padding in there, and I was like, oh, how do I dispose of this? And I was like, wait a minute, I bet I could make something with this. And so it's in a box in the garage with the other stuff that I think I could make something with. And I just wondered if you guys have that experience, can't throw things away, or if you have any examples, or maybe your own box in the garage.
Yes. I can't see the floor anymore in my garage. We can squeeze the minivan in, and that's about it. But yes, I too am a maker hoarder of things, which I think now I've passed on to my children.
Oh no.
They will save empty tissue paper rolls and toilet paper rolls, and they'll draw faces on them. They recently had a birthday, and they took the bag, and the bag had a lot of dots. So they glued googly eyes on each of the dots, which I thought was genius. Like, there's a bunch of googly eyes looking at me. There's the box that they took from Decatur makers and turned into a spaceship. That the box is supposed to go in the trash. So I think I've passed on that hoarding. Oh, I could use this to make a project thing onto my children now. And I'm trying to become a little bit more of a minimalist in the house. The garage is just a completely different story. But I did try to set a limit on what scrap wood I would keep. If it's shorter than 8 inches, the chances of me holding on to it are slim.
Oh, but you can turn it into a pen. Like, you can turn a pen with it.
Oh no.
More ideas. You're right. And I do need to take that lathe class that James at our space teaches. I'll put that on my list for the summer.
The bowls that he's been posting on Slack are beautiful. Wooden
He is so
lathe.
talented. So yes, hoarders unite. Kevin, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, I try to recover, but I tend to relapse a lot and hold on to a bunch of random stuff. I keep trying to tell myself, like, is it really worth the storage space? Can't I just buy it again another time? And if I decide that I need it, it's like, but what if I need it immediately? I might need it immediately. There's a chance that this random little surface mount resistor will be the exact one that I need.
Oh no!
Or this random scrap of denim will certainly come in handy at some point. I need that, So something I'm working on. But yes, I tend to have a lot of just random scraps. I've gotten better about the wood scraps, but I also have but you could turn it into a pen thing, or you could make a little handle out of that, or, it goes on.
Yeah.
I see a new meetup in our future. Hoarders Anonymous.
It could be. Any equipment that I throw out, I have to remove all the speakers and the motors from the equipment. And I will never, ever use them for anything. But I have them.
I just got rid of a toy. It was one of those little toys where it's a small steering wheel and there's a little screen. It looks like a Game Boy screen. And you drive. And I got ready to throw it away. And you know what I thought? I could open this up and see what's inside.
I
just got rid of it.
Oh, Char, congratulations.
But Maureen, you would be proud. I have decided to try and get my feet wet with Arduinos again.
Oh, cool.
After the class, I actually went back and pulled up all the notes that you put together. By the way, you totally downplay your knowledge. Oh my goodness. The level of detail and information that you put in the packet for the Arduino class was amazing.
Yeah, that's all still online too. It's a GitHub, Haley MA, Arduino on-ramp. Now there are videos and
yeah. I watched all of them. I went back through all the links and watched it and tried to connect my alarm.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, some people are just designed for some things and some are not.
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway, I'm not giving up on it. But what I did was I ordered an Arduino starter kit off of Amazon that has, I think, 15 or 20 projects planned out for you. It's like a 300-page manual that gives you
Is it an Elgoo, ELGOO, or someone? Is that the brand,
I think so, because it wasn't Arduino brand.
Right.
I think it was a pretty popular one that had some really good reviews. So my first project was the time clock. And
cool.
It's still sitting on my desk. I'm about 8% of the way done.
8%? So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll have an update on that on our next podcast, hopefully.
Well, if you want any help, let me know.
I do. Yeah. I've learned in my old age not to turn down help. So thank you for sparking that interest.
Oh, thanks for taking the class. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about my limitations as an educator and continue to work to overcome them.
You're great.
Thank you. Thanks. We don't have I'm sorry. I know Kevin's been kind of instrumental in sparking up the Arduino Pi meetup at the space that meets the second Tuesday, I think, of the month. But I haven't been able to go. Oh, it's on a Monday, right?
Yeah, the second Monday.
Second Monday? You guys have been setting up a format for that, right?
Yeah, we've been kind of playing with the idea of having more topic-oriented meetups because we find that there's initially a big group really interested, but if there's not some topic that keeps people coming back, then it tends to peter off. So we've kind of seen that happen with a couple of them. So we're just giving that a shot. I don't know if that's going to work, but it at least makes it easier for people to know what they're getting into when they're coming by. So could work.
All right.
I think it's been working.
Or that someone's going to be there when they show up, too.
Right.
I've been wanting to do the MicroPython, learn some MicroPython, and it's the same thing. I veer towards it, and I look up tutorials, and okay, I'm going to sit down and work. I think something shiny, or it's time to walk the dog, or something like that.
What exactly is MicroPython?
MicroPython. Well, here's my understanding. So when you do Arduino, we usually program it. A lot of people program the little microcontrollers using the Arduino software, which is kind of like the code is C++. Just that's the programming language. And that's sort of been a very traditional, C and C++ have been kind of traditional languages for programming microcontrollers. But a lot of people like to use Python. Python has a lot of supporters. It actually has like a foundation that supports it. And a lot of, like if you take a learning to code class online, a lot of times they use Python because they think it's easy for people to understand, it's easy to read. And what has happened is the little microprocessors have gotten faster and they have more memory on them. And so they're not as limited in space and size, and it's easier for them. So that's one thing about C is it's compiled, it's put into zeros and ones and programmed into the processor. So it's very small and fast. Whereas now the new chips are larger and faster, and so they can use Python. So someone wrote the code to use Python on the little microcontrollers. Like the Arduino Uno board itself doesn't run it, but some Arduinos, I think some of the new ones can. A lot of the new, like the Adafruit boards or some of the other little microcontroller boards will run Python. And so MicroPython is just it's Python on microprocessors. It's not tiny Python, but there are some adjustments. So a lot of people who learn Python can now write code for hardware. I don't know. Does that explain it, or is it
totally?
I put you to sleep. So.
I'm totally, just gonna be a woodworker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With everybody's projects, all their if you go online and you're looking up how to make, your Christmas lights blink or something, someone's already done it, and it's probably already in, Arduino or C++. So people still use that, but some people want to be able to use Python to code their microprocessors. So anyway.
Is much of the code for Python open source like it is for Arduino?
You mean available to search online?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people post in projects. There aren't as many because it's I think it was just written in like 2015 or something. So there aren't as on the Adafruit site. They are actively making projects, and they use a fork of MicroPython that they call CircuitPython, but it's kind of the same thing, only slightly different. And so they actively make projects and they have gone back to their old project and rewritten a lot of them with Python.
And the only reason they rewrote them was to make it fast?
They rewrote them because people who are writing or want to use Python can now access those projects. And they rewrote them because now MicroPython's available, and it wasn't when they originally put those projects out there. Those are the main reasons. Also, because now their boards will run a lot of their boards will run their CircuitPython or their MicroPython.
Do you think the earlier circuits will phase out?
I don't think they will, but they might. I don't think so. Some of the Python stuff is hype, but some of it's genuinely easier to use for people. So it depends on whether people, I don't know. I guess I don't know enough to know.
Yeah, Python's just supposed to be a lot easier to both code and read because it is a little bit close to just natural English language writing. Whereas C is a lot more like it feels like a coding language. You have to like define what type your variables are. You can't just say, yeah, this variable, just stick whatever into it that you want. In C, you have to say like this is an integer, not not a double, which it would be something that has decimal points. Nope, it's an integer, and only integers can fit in there. So it's a little bit more tedious in terms of the syntax that you have to apply. But the big reason you would choose C over MicroPython is that MicroPython and CircuitPython are both interpreted, which means that unlike programming, like in C, which gets turned into ones and zeros, MicroPython and CircuitPython don't. They actually get interpreted at a higher level by an interpreter that's below that. The interpreter is probably written in C, which then is, again, translated into ones and zeros. So yeah. All that is just to say they tend to run with an extra layer, and that extra layer provides kind of the support network. So if you need something to run really, really ridiculously fast, you probably don't want to have that extra layer running. So True. Image processing, machine vision, all that kind of stuff tends to require really fast stuff. But, Python does get you started a lot better.
Yeah. Good to know.
Back to when we started, where we talked about how much programming we do, where you just go out and find a project and cut and paste. I think a lot of people do that. And right now, when you go look for that project, most of them are not going to be in Python. And people are writing more of them. But now, if you go look for your project, you're still going to want to at least be able to modify it a little bit in the Arduino software, I think. My own personal journey was I was playing with some electronics. Someone said, and I was online. I was like, okay, what do I do next? And someone said, get an Arduino beginner's kit. And I got one, and I was like, and they were like, okay, load these sketches, because that's what they call programs, sketches. And I was like, what is this? Like I literally never seen C. I've never seen that kind of code before. I was like, what is this? And then I went to a meetup. So people say, good, look on Meetup, find a coding group and learn to code. And I went to a meetup, and it was a doggone Decatur makers meetup. And we were building a maker community. Still haven't learned to code, though.
That's okay. You know a heck of a lot more than I do.
See, Maureen, I think you've actually learned. It's just you've learned how much you don't know as well. And so you feel like you haven't learned, but you've actually learned a lot.
I have. I've been taught a lot, for sure. Well, anything else you guys are hoarding out there that I have some projects that are building up that I'm hoarding. I need to figure out either how to utilize them, how to make them better.
What are they?
Well, I made a little storage device from a Raspberry Pi just have storage around my house. And then I also made a music player from a Raspberry Pi, and then so now I'm like, but I never use them because you use your phone for everything. So anyway, I have lots of pieces of laser printable wood.
That's always useful.
Size. Hey, you might use one of those.
Yeah.
Some little 8 by 8 centimeters. Say I can't throw it away.
I need some of that.
Yeah. Joanne's Fabrics.
A business card holder for the business cards that I printed today, which Kevin helped me out with so much. I was up so late last night trying to figure out how to invert my logo so that I could actually cut it out rather than engrave it on the Glowforge. So I'm very familiar with Photoshop and Illustrator now. Didn't help me much, but Kevin made it so simple. So basically, he took the EPS file of my logo, converted it to a PNG in GIMP, dropped it in Inkscape, then he clicked a bunch of buttons, and magic happened.
Yeah, I clicked the do the thing Char's looking for button.
Exactly.
And that worked.
Yeah, easy.
You really ought to get one of those buttons for your computer.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm going to check Amazon, see if they have any on sale. But the cards came out great. So now I just need a card holder. And I was digging through a bunch of scrap hoarded wood in the garage. Offcuts of, I've got some really nice zebra wood that was part of a project that I never finished.
Ooh.
And some cherry that I might try and make something out of. Has anyone ever done re-sign on our saw stop?
They have. The blade, it's hard to get the blade perfectly perpendicular, so you get that slight lip where it meets in between. I'm assuming that this is a piece of material that's thicker than the height of the blade, so more than like 4 inches or so, 3 inches.
Probably about 4 inches. I have some that's about 4.
Yeah, I think it can resaw maybe 3 inches in one pass, but so you'd have to flip the board. But yeah, I've never gotten it to line up perfectly. There's always just a tiny bit of planing or sanding afterwards.
You know what would be awesome if we got an 18-inch bandsaw that was set up for resawing.
That would be awesome.
I think we talked about this before.
You know, we now have on our wiki a tool request page.
Oh wow, yeah.
I saw that.
Don't we have an old bandsaw? Didn't we get a new bandsaw?
We don't have a new one. We just have kind of the old one.
Okay.
That I think only has maybe a 6-inch throat. Maybe closer to 4 inches. I don't remember exactly. But if you go to like the woodshop page on our wiki and you scroll to the bottom, there's a little link that says, have a tool you'd like to see at Decatur Makers? Let us know through this link. As well as a list of requested tools right above that. Guess what number 1 is?
What?
Bigger bandsaw.
No way. I didn't put that there, but I did see the note from our monthly member meeting about adding new tools. How about a window? Can we just cut a window?
We've talked about that. You know, it will be cutting through cinder blocks, so we're trying to be really sure that's what we want.
We'll have to buy a new tool to do that.
Perfect.
You say that like it's a downside.
Yeah.
A new chainsaw that cuts through cinder block. I saw it on Instagram.
Was it your Instagram?
I know, right? I'll bring in my chainsaw. Next week when you guys come in, there'll be a draft coming from a place you've never felt it before. There'll be a new window. And I know nothing about window installation, by the way, but I can cut a hole.
That's right. We're sure we have a member who can do that.
Yeah.
Hey, shall we wrap up? Shall we wrap up this episode? What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, then. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and check back with us for our next Decatur Makers podcast. Get out there and make it good.
See ya.
Holla.